What secret could ruin your life if it got out? When I was 15 and incredibly lonely one summer, I decided to make an OkCupid account. For those of you who don't know, that's a dating website for people 18 plus. I looked probably about 17 at the time, but I guess I could pass for 18. I said I was 18 on my account. I got a lot of responses from guys instantly. There was this one that stood out to me. His name was James. He was a 22-year-old college student working at Tim Hortons, but me at 15 thought he was the most intelligent and beautiful person I've ever met. We talked for 3 months and then he turned 23. Now the age gap was 8 years. After those 3 summer months of staying up all night, we decided to meet up in person. It was Labor Day weekend when we met up. He picked me up from a gas station and drove me to his house. We lived 3 hours away and I told him that my car didn't work, but really I only had my permit and no car. I honestly think I fell in love with him and we hit it off completely. He was really attractive and different from guys my age. Guys my age would make fun of how I looked because they were insecure themselves and teased me a lot when they were interested in me, which just confused me. But James would compliment me and joke with me but never made me feel insecure. I really loved him, but when the relationship progressed, he was talking about doing the thing and I told him I was a V-card holder, which he was okay with. But after I turned 16, I realized that he was a 23-year-old man who could get in a lot of trouble if he was to sleep with me. I never told him my age because I knew he would be disgusted with himself, so I just cut all ties with him all day. I figured it was selfish to keep him around. He needed somebody who could be 100% honest with him. So in March, I basically blocked him on all social media and my phone. He didn't know where I lived, and I never saw or spoke to him again. It's been 2 years, but I sometimes stalk his Facebook. He's actually engaged now and graduated college. I'm so happy that everything is going well for him. I'm only 18 now, but I hope one day I'll find a guy who's as great as James. Story 2. My whole professional life is built on a lie and it's about ready to come down. When I was 22, I was in a bad way, halfway through my bachelor's degree, but with a building addiction to opiates and some mental health issues. Summer of that year, I was in a bad car accident. In addition to broken bones throughout my body, my head went through the window and my face received severe lacerations that required hundreds of stitches to close, and left me looking very rough. As tough as that was to deal with, I also now know that I sustained a traumatic brain injury that left me very confused, angry, and overwhelmed by life in general. I wanted to keep up appearances, so after taking 3 months off to recover, I tried to go back to school. Within the first week, I knew I couldn't handle it. Too many questions about what happened, too much anxiety, and I'd lost pretty much all my coping skills. When I got overwhelmed, which happened often, I would feel sick and scared and literally forget where I was and what I was doing. It was frightening and embarrassing, especially for someone like me who had always had high expectations placed on my shoulders by those around me. I'd lost pretty much all my friends at this point, and in my mental state, I thought that those who remained would abandon me if they knew how much I was struggling. So I told everyone that it was doing great. Every day I would leave the house for 6 hours and drive. Sometimes I would stop in a parking lot. Sometimes I would just keep driving all day. I would find cheap used textbooks at college bookstores so that I could bring them home and study. I created elaborate lies about my classes and my professors in order to have stories to tell when people asked how it was going. I kept telling myself that I was just doing this until my brain worked again, and that next quarter I would go back for real when I could actually handle it. Problem is, things just kept getting worse, and as time went on, I became less able to get back on track. This went on for 2.5 years, until I was supposed to be graduating. So I lied about that too. I forged transcripts and came up with stories of why I didn't want to work in the field of my degree and hoped to move past it. I got a labor job and slowly found things working themselves out as my brain chemistry improved and steady work kept me from completely destroying myself. Eventually I had to move. For the first time in over a decade, I was finally free of my opiate addiction and starting to feel the part of the world again, but I was still carrying the lie of my college degree. I volunteered in some places related to that field and they really liked me. They liked me so much, in fact, that they hired me on an emergency basis, no transcripts required, and I've worked there ever since. Now, 3 years into my sobriety and seemingly a lifetime removed from the pain of those years, they want to promote me to a career-level job that I would absolutely love. I'm so good at what I do and it brings me so much joy, but this promotion would come with background checks that I know I can't stand up to. When I was so depressed, I honestly didn't think I would even live this long, so while I knew that my lies could create this situation, I never prepared for it. Worse than losing this job would be having everyone around me find out what happened. So I'm at a point now where I have to quit what I love because they like me too much. I plan to go back to school for real and I think I'll do well. But the shame and regret of this situation is something I don't think I'll ever shake. Story 3. A while back, I was cheating on my wife with a coworker. It went on for months and I never really cared for the woman I was cheating with. She was super hot though. After a while, my coworkers started getting really crazy and threatening to tell my wife, whom I had a child with and a baby on the way, about everything. Obviously, I kept trying to cut things off because I realized I was making a mistake. She lost it one night and was freaking out and texting me telling me she was gonna come to my house and a drunk driver hit her. She passed away instantly. No one knows I was having an affair and my family went to her funeral. Story 4. Possibly the most relatable. I don't care about the company or my work beyond a professional level. I do my work well because I'm paid, but I'm not working extra for free. I don't buy into the mission at all, and the only reason I don't want the place to go belly up is so I don't lose my job. If corporate heard this, it could ruin your life because a lot have bought into / force feed the delusion that work is life. Hell, I know people who have been clearly shoved out of companies because of this. This isn't to say that I don't work hard for my time, but I get paid for 40 hours. I work hard for 40. You expect 60? Pay me and I'll do it. But I don't care about the company or changing the world, so I won't do it for free. Story 5. I was picked on a lot in primary school. One kid, we'll call him Jonathan, got quite antsy with skipping ropes and used to whip me with them before chasing me with it if I ran away. He also called me some pretty horrible names. When I was 10 years old, the bullying was relentless and spread to multiple people bullying me. If I told the school, they would tell off the bullies, but the behavior would still continue. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. As Jonathan came charging towards me with his friends, ready to start whipping, I stood rigid with a plastic tennis racket and with all my anger spun in one complete circle. I didn't expect to move so quickly, nor for the racket to hit anything. I was quite weird and had poor hand-eye coordination when I was young. But the racket slammed straight to the side of his face, causing him to bleed quite heavily. He had to go home that day. I'm 17 now, and I've seen him a couple of times since. His head healed, but he sustained minor, temporary brain damage because of it. Prior to me reuniting with him, I genuinely thought I'd killed him. I still hate how I caused all this damage to him. Jonathan's friends were simply too scared to tell the teacher of what I did for fear of how I would react. Up until this point, I'd been intelligent, quiet, and secluded. When I suddenly snapped and attacked, it came as a huge shock to them. They mostly stopped talking to me as well. People may tell me to try and reconcile with him, but the truth is that I will never ever forgive him for the crap he put me through for 2 years. Story 6. So I don't really know how to start this off, but I'm attracted to beds. It started somewhere during my early high school years when I was really starting to discover myself. There was something about beds. The fact that when you go to sleep at night, you're always with them. Their purpose is to make you feel comfortable at night, when you're at your most vulnerable. Anyway, I modified my twin bed towards the end of the school, essentially tearing the fabrics, shoving some pillows in the side, and make a little hole that I could insert into. I've always known that the behavior is odd, but I can't help myself. Nowadays, I live with my girlfriend. I don't have that twin bed anymore, but anytime you have intercourse, it has to be on a bed. If it's not, I can't get good enough. Needless to say, if this got out, it would truly mess me up. Story 7. I've been in a strictly intercourse relationship with a first cousin for the last 5 years. We only ever saw each other once or twice a year growing up before she moved to the other side of the country, and then never really saw or interacted with each other again until 5 years ago when she moved back. What started as us meeting up once in a while has become a regular thing in the last few months. It's escalated to the point where we're now texting each other. I'm scared to death of what might happen if anyone in our family finds out, but I don't want to stop what's happening either. Here's this story. It all started out very slow before it escalated into full-on intercourse. I was informed by another cousin of ours and asked to help her move since I was free at the time. We started hanging out throughout that summer, and then one afternoon we had brunch and then went back to chill at her apartment. It was a super hot day, so we thought let's just go indoors and relax and watch some TV or a movie. I can't remember what we were watching, but we were chatting the whole time too, just talking about our relatives and what we were looking to do with our lives and careers. After a while, she kinda just leaned on me and got comfortable, and I threw my arm around her, almost instinctively, and we were just hanging out like that for a bit. Eventually, she gave me a lingering look that was kind of asking, "What's happening here?" And we both went in for the kiss. We were both shocked that it happened, but we got over it fast and started, you know what? We both came to our senses and stopped before anything went any further. We decided to forget it happened and move past it, but every time we met up after that, we would do things. We completely stopped when each of us had a significant other, but would start hooking up again after every so often. As mentioned above, now it's become a regular occurrence where we hook up multiple times a week, and we've been texting with each other now. Story 8. This won't ruin me because I've already went no contact with my mom, but it still hurts and is a big secret I've not told anyone. When I was a kid, I had asthma pretty bad, so I would be up all night, coughing constantly. My mom and I lived with her parents. We shared a room, so I slept in her bed often when I was a toddler. Mom would come home from work and lay down for bed, but I'd keep her awake with my coughing. Sometimes at night I'd be coughing and she would hug me so tight that I couldn't breathe. It would really distress me that I couldn't breathe, but I knew Mom loved me so much and I didn't want to tell her she was literally squeezing me to death because I was afraid of hurting her feelings, so I'd just tell her that I loved her so much and she would cry pretty hard after that. Took me years after having my own kid and treating him gently to figure out that it's actually pretty difficult to squeeze a kid so hard that they can't breathe. My mom is bipolar and has had other incidents of hurting people and abandoning those in her care that need medication and can't take care of themselves. So I finally put it together and figured out. Mom would be so agitated with my asthma that she would try to stop me from coughing by squeezing me almost to death. And then she would cry out of guilt when I told her I loved her. Story 9. I had a baby with sperm donated from a man who advertised on Craigslist. If my very religious family found out it wasn't an accident, I would be completely shunned and disowned. I'm a female who's ugly. No, that's not the secret, but I'm ugly because I have a facial deformity that I was born with. I've never had a long-term partner and only had intercourse a few times in my life. My biological clock was ticking loudly and I desperately wanted a child. There wasn't gonna be time enough to meet someone and my odds were non-existent as a middle-aged, ugly female. I own my home, have a career, but I didn't want to lose all my savings to pay to have it done through a clinic and sperm donation, etc. It would have been at least $15,000 per try. My chances of adopting were also almost non-existent as any woman looking to adopt her baby out isn't going to pick the ugly middle-aged lady to adopt their baby. Plus, it is crazy freaking expensive. I wanted the money I had in my savings accounts to go towards raising the child. So I turned to Craigslist and got it for free. My child is a preschooler now, and I've never been happier or more fulfilled. I pinch myself every day because my child is in my life and I feel so lucky. Every day is a dream come true and I savor each and every moment. I try to be the best mom I can be in every way. Parenting really makes you take a long, hard look at yourself and how you show up in the world. I parent from my heart. I regularly send pictures and updates to the generous and selfless man who trusted me on a handshake. Story 10. In 2009, I was working a dead-end job, living paycheck to paycheck, and my then-girlfriend, now wife, and I were constantly struggling with the stress of financial difficulty, and I could never get a job in an industry I wanted to work in. Fast forward to Easter 2009, I was sitting in the passenger seat of our little car. while my wife was driving. We got T-boned on the passenger side. That crumpled the entire side of the car and banged me up pretty good. I managed to get out of the car, check on my wife who was fine. I started to feel a minor throbbing in my leg, but quickly composed myself and ran over to check on the other driver. He was fine, it was a big truck, but he was pissed he hit us and immediately admitted blame. It was pretty clear since he ran a red. So we sorted out the towing exchange information and I go home. That night I get a frantic call from my brother. He always calls asking for help. I don't even remember what it was for, but I was like, look man, we were just in a bad car accident, and my leg is really feeling messed up, I can't help you. My brother was totally shunned and told me that I need to go to the doctor. I was mostly exaggerating, my leg was just bruised up and I didn't want to go out and lend a hand. Next day, my leg is a bit stiff and I started to feel a bit lazy, so I got called into work saying I'm having trouble standing up after the accident. They say no worries, work from home and take it easy. So I do. I spend the day playing World of Warcraft and eating old Chinese food. My girlfriend came home and I was really just feeling lazy and I make this big scene of not being able to walk easily to help out. She immediately takes me to the doctor and despite protesting they send me off for x-rays, which while they are waiting, the nurse suggests that I start looking into a lawyer since this was an MVC. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just went along with it and started faking this injury. The x-rays came back negative for any breaks, but there was a possibility of a dislocation that righted itself, so I just said, yeah, I think there was a sharp pain during the impact. Anyways, I went on short-term disability. My girlfriend was forced to carry the weight. I went on long-term disability and started going through physical therapy, which I faked my way through. Now fast forward 12 months, I'm done faking. I've recovered from my injury. I'm at a party with some friends who introduced me to this guy who heard my story and my struggles. He was so impressed by my perseverance, he offered me a salary job. Nothing crazy, something like $45,000 a year. But when you've been working retail, it's huge. Then came a settlement that was worth over $90,000, which my girlfriend and I used to buy our first house. Fast forward 4 years, I'm extremely successful, making over $100K with commissions. Been promoted multiple times and got married and literally owe it all to being a lazy crap who faked a sick day following a car accident so he could PvP in World of Warcraft all day. My entire life is based around a single lie, but even to this day, sometimes I say my leg is acting up. Story 11. Some guy convinced naive 15-year-old me to send pictures and then used it against me for 6 months. He found me on Facebook and threatened to send them to my friends list if I didn't do whatever he asked me to. He would make me get online whenever he asked and have me play with him. He even tried to get me to meet up with him in person. I got really lucky when his profiles just disappeared one day and I took that opportunity to delete every social media account I had. I haven't gone back since and I never will. It really messed me up for a while, but I don't really have anyone to blame but myself. It's been 6 years since and I still haven't told anyone I know this story. For those of you asking why I didn't go to the police, I'm a South Asian female with a very conservative family. I didn't see telling my family about what happened as an option at the time, and I still don't. I just wanted this whole situation to go away ASAP. Thank you so much for watching. If you have stories of your own, feel free to write them in the comments so I can make a video on them in the future. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one.